Yes, hello guys. Welcome to the US session. And now we're going to trade again this market. Uh, I was kind of a bit late, but I entered here area. This market here, jump index 100, and our account is 1.14 with these. And I try to go aggressive here now. Let's see what is to go today.
index climbed to 40. You are winning.
Everything is going great.
But then the market dips slightly and it drops to 38. That tiny dip acts as the stressor. The automatic negative thought instantly flares up. The market is turning. The peak is gone. You are going to lose all the profit you made. You are greedy and foolish for staying in.
So the static convinces you that a completely normal temporary fluctuation is actually the beginning of a permanent catastrophic crash.
Precisely. And driven by that scarcity and fear, the trader abandons their original target of $50 and just sells at 38, completely missing out on the actual growth they had planned for when the stock inevitably rebounds. They sacrifice their ultimate strategic goal for the immediate, fleeting comfort of just relieving their anxiety.
It's the fear of returning to the baseline. I mean, it's like running a marathon, right? You're in the lead group, you're doing great, but then you trip on a shoelace at mile 15.
Okay, yeah.
Instead of taking 3 seconds to just tie your shoe and continuing your strategy to win the race, the automatic negative thought screams, "You tripped. The momentum is gone. Everyone is going to pass you, and you will look like a complete fool."
So you just give up?
Yeah, you literally veer off the course and quit while you are technically still in the lead, purely to avoid the mere possibility of losing later on. You guarantee failure to avoid the anxiety of potential failure.
That is a brilliant analogy, and it perfectly sets up the second example the text gives, which is the terrifying mirror image of that behavior.
Right. Not covering shorts soon enough. Now, a short position is a bet that an asset's price will decline. You need the price to go down to win. If the price goes up, you are losing money. And covering a short means buying back the asset to close the position and stop the bleeding.
Stop the loss, right.
So why do we fail to cover? Why do we fail to cut our losses and exit when the data clearly shows the position is going violently against us?
This is a devastating psychological state of paralysis. It's caused by a violent collision between hope and fear. It's rooted in what behavioral economists call loss aversion.
Loss aversion?
Yeah. Humans feel the psychological pain of a loss roughly twice as intensely as the pleasure of an equivalent gain.
Wow, twice as much.
Yes. So when a position goes against you, your logical strategy usually dictates a clear stop-loss point, a predetermined number where logic says, okay, the thesis was wrong, exit right now to minimize the damage to maybe 2% of the portfolio.
But when the price actually hits that stop-loss point, taking the action makes the loss real.
Exactly. As long as you hold the position, it's a paper loss. But the moment you click cover, it becomes a permanent reality. When that moment arrives, the automatic self-criticism becomes excruciating. I was wrong. I failed. I lost money.
So the mind just desperately tries to avoid accepting the finality of that loss.
Yes. So instead of executing the disciplined restraint of cutting the tie, the emotional impulse is to just freeze. The trader sits there staring at the red numbers, just hoping the market will miraculously turn around and save their ego.
They just freeze in the headlight.
They refuse to accept the reality of the loss. And by failing to cover the short soon enough, they allow a small, manageable strategic loss to mutate into a massive, uncontrolled financial disaster that could wipe out an entire account.
Man, the evolutionary mismatch here is just staggering. Because why does self-doubt make us flee from a winning position selling longs early? But then it makes us completely freeze in a losing position.
It seems like a contradiction.
It seems totally contradictory. Panic makes us hyperactive in one scenario and completely catatonic in another.
Well, if we look through the lens of evolutionary psychology, it actually makes a perverse kind of sense. These specific trading behaviors are direct, modern manifestations of our deepest survival instincts.
Fight, flight, or freeze.
Exactly. These instincts evolved to keep us alive in the wilderness when being hunted by a physical predator. Think about it. If you have a small, immediate advantage, say you found some berries while a predator is nearby, you grab the berries and flee to secure safety.
Take the small win and run.
Right. That is selling longs early, take the small win, and run from the perceived danger.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about freezing?
Well, if you are cornered, outmatched, and the predator is already upon you, fleeing will actually trigger its chase instinct.
Right.
In that completely hopeless scenario, sometimes freezing playing dead is the absolute last biological option left to avoid drawing further attention.
Well, wow.
That is not covering the short. The market has cornered you, the loss is upon you, and your biology decides that taking action will only make the pain worse. So you literally play dead and just hope the predator wanders away.
That makes so much sense, but it is an absolute disaster in a modern office. I mean, those wilderness survival instincts are catastrophic when you're sitting in a Herman Miller chair just trying to adhere to a mathematically sound strategy.
Totally catastrophic.
Your brain is trying to save you from a saber-toothed tiger, but you're just looking at a fluctuating number on an LCD screen. We are reacting to spreadsheets as if they have teeth.
That is the perfect way to phrase it. The profound mismatch between the ancient biological reaction and the modern intellectual task is the exact root of the sabotage. Which brings us to the third and most tragic consequence, the text outlines.
Withdrawing from trading altogether when your trading is not proceeding favorably.
Yes.
This is just the ultimate white flag.
It is the ultimate avoidance behavior. When events are not proceeding favorably, when an individual is facing a string of losses, severe volatility, or profound market uncertainty, the volume of that negative radio static becomes completely deafening.
You just can't tune it out anymore.
Right. The self-criticism, that voice saying, I am a total failure, and the self-doubt saying, I am incapable of learning this, they compound day after day. And eventually, the psychological pain becomes so overwhelming that the person's ego simply cannot withstand any further damage.
So to stop the pain, they completely remove themselves from the arena, they close the brokerage account, they swear off investing, they abandon the long-term wealth goal entirely.
They just flee.
They don't just detour off the map. They set the map on fire, sell the car, and lock themselves in the basement.
Yes. It is the total final victory of emotional impulse over disciplined response. They ensure permanent financial stagnation just to silence the temporary psychological static.
Okay, so we've established the devastating wreckage here. We flee when we should hold, we freeze when we should cut our losses, and we ultimately just give up to protect our fragile egos.
The three big traps.
Right. But to understand the true mechanism of this panic, like why the brain projects a tiger onto a spreadsheet in the first place, we have to look at the philosophical core of this text.
This is my favorite part.
The author introduces a phenomenal, haunting metaphor to explain how the mind creates this terror. Let me read the exact phrasing for you. The text speaks of, and I quote, that fearful automatic movie in your mind, the one that projects negative images onto events.
That fearful automatic movie in your mind, the one that projects negative images onto events. It's such a meticulous metaphor.
It really is.
We need to deeply examine the concept of the movie and the psychological act of projection, because the fundamental and perhaps controversial assertion hidden within this sentence is that events themselves in the real world are inherently neutral.
Okay, I need to push back hard here.
I figured you would.
Because this is where a lot of people, including myself, will disconnect from the theory. Wait, if my investment strategy fails and I lose my life savings and the bank forecloses on my house and my kids have to change schools, that is not a neutral event.
No.
That is an objectively bad, dangerous, life-altering event. So how can the text possibly argue that a market crash, wiping out a family's wealth, is just a blank screen? I mean, that sounds like toxic positivity or just philosophical denial.
It's a very vital pushback, but distinguishing between the event and the consequence is absolutely crucial to understanding the author's point.
Okay, explain the difference.
The loss of the house and the disruption to your children's lives are profound, painful, real-world consequences. But the author is talking about the exact moment the panic begins, the moment the event itself occurs.
Okay.
The event itself is simply a stock price ticking down on a screen. It is a transmission of data indicating that buyers and sellers agree on a lower price than they did yesterday. That data point is entirely neutral.
Just numbers.
Just numbers. The number on the screen does not have malice. It is not angry at you. It does not know you exist. It is not actively trying to take your house.
Okay. The data is neutral. I can see that.
Exactly. The event is just a blank screen. It is the mind that acts as a projector, instantly beaming a terrifying narrative onto that blank screen.
Oh.
The moment the data ticks down, your mind instantly writes the script, casts the monsters, and projects the movie. I am losing my savings. The bank is taking the house. My children will suffer. The panic happens at the screen long before the bank ever sends a letter.
Think about the irony of that.
Okay.
It's like you're sitting alone in a movie theater where you are the director. You wrote the script for the horror film. You paid for all the special effects.
Yeah.
But somehow you completely forgot you made the movie.
Yes.
So you're sitting in the front row, absolutely terrified, screaming at the screen, totally oblivious to the fact that the projector is sitting right there inside your own skull.
That is exactly the tragedy of the automatic nature of this movie, because it starts playing instantaneously and reflexively the moment the stressor emerges. The individual entirely mistakes the projected movie for reality.
They think the monster is real.
They do. When the trader sees the stock tick down, they aren't reacting to the data. They are reacting to the terrifying script their own mind just wrote about what that data might mean. They are terrified of the negative images they themselves are projecting.
Wow.
And here is the ultimate cruel twist. By panicking at the movie and freezing on the short position, they actually cause the very consequence, the loss of the house that they were afraid of.
Oh, man. We aren't actually responding to the market at all. We are literally just reacting to different genres of the horror movie playing in our heads.
Precisely.
The strategy was built on reality. The impulse is a desperate attempt to survive hallucination.
That's a profound way to put it.
But so, if the events are neutral data, and all the fear and the urge to self-sabotage is just a projection from our internal movie theater, how do we actually stop the projector? Because right now, understanding the metaphor is great, but I still feel like I'm trapped in the theater with the doors locked.
Well, that profound question brings us right to the text's ultimate solution, and this is the second main pillar of our focus today.
Let's hear it.
The text gives us a very clear, deceptively simple instruction on how to handle the movie theater. It states, centering lets you turn away from that fearful automatic movie in your mind.
Turn away. Let's look at the verbs the author deliberately chose not to use here, because the text does not instruct the trader to fight the movie.
No, it doesn't.
It does not say to destroy the projector. It doesn't tell you to argue with the self-doubt on the screen or to try and forcefully rewrite the script into some positive, happy, motivational movie.
Right.
It simply says to turn away. Why is fighting the movie a bad idea? Shouldn't we try to, conquer our fears and force ourselves to think positively?
Well, because engaging with the content of the fear validates its existence.
How so?
If you stand up in the movie theater and start screaming back at the monster on the screen, or if you try to punch the screen, you are still operating under the fundamental delusion that the monster is real.
Oh, right. You're treating it like a real threat.
Exactly. If you argue with your self-doubt, like if the automatic thought says you are a total failure, and you start mentally listing all your past successes to prove the thought wrong, you are still burning massive amounts of cognitive bandwidth engaging with the static.
They're wasting your battery.
You are still locked inside the emotional reaction, literally debating a hallucination.
So centering isn't about jumping onto the stage to wrestle the monster. It's simply turning your head to look at the exit sign.
Yes.
It's a redirection of attention.
Yeah.
But practically speaking, I need mechanics here. Turn away sounds beautiful as a philosophical concept.
Sure.
But if I am having a literal panic attack because a position is tanking, my heart rate is 130 beats per minute, I'm sweating, my breathing is shallow, I cannot just philosophically turn away. How do I center myself? Are we talking about breathing exercises?
Yeah.
Stepping away from the desk? What are the physical and psychological mechanics of centering?
Centering requires anchoring your mind back to physical reality and logical predetermination. You are basically pulling energy away from the limbic system and forcing it back into the prefrontal cortex.
Okay, how?
It requires tactical, rehearsed steps. First, physiological grounding. When the movie starts playing, your biology is in fight or flight. You must break that physical loop.
Break the circuit.
Yes. This can be as simple as tactical breathing, inhaling for 4 seconds, holding for 4, exhaling for 4. This physically lowers the heart rate and sends a biological signal to the brain that there is no literal tiger in the room.
So you have to convince your body it isn't dying before your brain can even begin to think clearly.
Exactly. Second step, physical detachment. If the screen is the trigger for the projection, physically remove yourself from the screen.
Just walk away.
Stand up, walk to another room. The market will still be there in 2 minutes. Breaking the visual line of sight breaks the spell of the movie.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about the psychological mechanics? How do we actually return to the strategy itself?
Through externalized logic. This is why a strategy must be written down, not just held in your head.
Why is that?
Because when the movie is playing, your internal memory is compromised by panic. You can't remember the plan. So you use a physical checklist. You look at the piece of paper you wrote when you were calm.
The actual physical blueprint.
Right. The paper says, if price drops to X, execute Y. You read the paper out loud. You are forcing your brain to process external logical language rather than internal emotional imagery. You turn away from the internal movie by forcing your attention onto external objective facts.
Wow, this connects perfectly back to the concept of dialing in that we discussed earlier. It's a two-step process. First, you dial in to recognize the movie has actually started playing.
Right, the awareness.
You observe the meta-awareness. Okay, my heart is racing, the self-doubt static has begun, the fearful movie is projecting. You acknowledge it. Then, immediately you use centering breathing, stepping away, reading the checklist out loud to consciously turn your attention away from that projection and back to the disciplined way.
Exactly. By turning away from the emotional hallucination, you clear your vision just enough to actually look at the neutral data as it truly is.
And then you act.
And then you execute the logical plan you created in the quiet room, regardless of how loud the wind is howling outside the window. You do not have to be fearless to execute a strategy. You just have to be able to center yourself enough to stop staring at the fear.
It's the absolute essence of mental self-restraint. It's not the impossible task of eliminating emotion. It's the practical discipline of refusing to let the emotion dictate your physical behavior.
Very well said.
Man, this has been a truly remarkable journey through a single densely packed paragraph. Let me just summarize the architecture of what we've explored today for you, the listener.
Please do.
We started by acknowledging the fundamental gap between our logical strategy and our biological impulses. You know, that evolutionary mismatch that makes us treat a fluctuating spreadsheet